Imagine for a moment that you are looking at a giant, beautiful castle. The walls are high, the gates are strong, and inside there is a family that the whole world watches. We are told that their lives are like a fairy tale. We see the fancy weddings. We see the smiling faces in the newspapers. We see the happy parents holding their new babies. We are told that everything is perfect and true. But what if I told you that the biggest secret in the world isn't hidden in a dungeon or a dark cave? What if the biggest secret is hidden in a piece of paper that someone tried to throw away? Think about a puzzle, the kind with 1,000 tiny pieces. When you look at the box, the picture looks perfect. But what happens if you find out that the most important piece, the piece right in the middle, doesn't actually fit? What happens if that piece belongs to a totally different puzzle? Right now, there is a storm brewing over the royal family. It is not a storm made of rain and thunder. It is a storm made of secrets. For a long time, we thought we knew the story of Prince Harry and Meghan. We thought we saw the truth, but now a new voice is speaking up. It is a voice that was told to stay quiet. It is a voice that could change history forever. This is not just a story about a prince and a princess. This is a story about a lie so big that it could break the castle walls apart. And it all starts with one person who says, "I have the truth, and I am not going to be quiet anymore." Prince Harry has always been a person who feels things very deeply. Since he was a little boy, the world has watched him. We saw him laugh and we saw him cry. He has never been good at hiding his feelings. He wears his heart on his sleeve, which means he shows everyone exactly how he feels. But lately, things have changed. People who are very close to him say that he is not just sad anymore. They say he is broken. Imagine a glass vase that falls on the floor and shatters into tiny pieces. That is what his emotions are like right now. Friends say that he cannot sleep at night. He stays awake when the rest of the world is dreaming. He walks back and forth in his room, pacing like a nervous tiger in a cage. He is always looking at his phone and his computer. He is checking the news and reading comments online. He looks like a man who is waiting for something terrible to crash into him. One night, something happened that changed everything. A legal helper, someone who gives advice on the law, was working with Prince Harry and his team. This person says that Harry finally couldn't hold the secret in any longer. The pressure was too much. According to this helper, Harry made a huge confession. He admitted something shocking. He said that Meghan never actually carried their children in her own body. He explained that the story they told the world, the story about hospitals and doctors and labor, was just a story. It was the version that Meghan wanted to tell. Harry went along with it because he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought he was being a good husband and a good father. He thought he was keeping his family safe from harm. But keeping that secret didn't make them safe. Instead, it became a heavy burden. It felt like carrying a giant rock on his back every single day. The weight is so heavy that people inside the palace say Harry looks like he is falling apart from the inside out. This was the moment when the perfect picture started to crack. And once a crack starts, the truth begins to leak out like water through a broken dam. And this is where the real story starts. It brings us to a woman who is now standing right in the middle of this giant mess. We cannot say her real name because of the law, so we will call her DL. For a long time, nobody knew who she was, but now she's not whispering anymore. She's speaking loudly. DL says she was not just a helper. She says she is the real mother. She claims she is the biological mother of both Archie and Lilibet. This means she says they are her children by blood. She says she has the proof to show everyone. She says she has the DNA connection. She has the papers. She has the emails sent back and forth. She even has the files from the hospital. She says she holds the truth that Meghan and Harry tried to bury deep in the ground. For many years, DL lived a very quiet life. She signed a special paper called an NDA. This is a strict promise never to talk about what happened. She was told she must never speak to reporters. She was told she must never tell anyone who she was. She was basically told to pretend she didn't exist to the public. In exchange for her silence, promises were made to her. They promised she would be safe. They promised she would be paid well. But DL says those promises were broken. She says she was left with nothing. She didn't get the final money she was owed. She didn't get a thank you. Nobody even called to check if she was healthy or okay after the baby was born. She was given silence, and then she was erased from the story completely. But DL says she will not be erased again. She is ready to fight. To really understand how DL became part of this explosive story, we have to travel back in time to the end of the year 2018. That was when a person came to talk to her. This person was a messenger for a very fancy clinic that helps people have babies. This clinic was used by very rich families who wanted to keep their business total secret. The message given to DL was very simple. A famous couple needed help to have a baby. The deal would be very private. The money would be very good, and most importantly, nobody would ever know that she was the one who had the baby. Her name would never be connected to the children in public. DL agreed. She signed the secret papers. She became a patient at the clinic. The doctors were very careful with the paperwork. Every single step was taken quietly, on tiptoes. It was so quiet that DL says even the nurses and workers at the clinic didn't know who the real parents were. She carried the baby in her tummy. She did everything the doctors told her to do. She delivered the baby safely. And then, just like that, she was pushed out of the picture. This is where the story gets darker and scarier. What DL says happened next doesn't just change what we know about Harry and Meghan. It threatens to rewrite the history of the kings and queens. When little Archie was born in May of 2019, the whole world saw happy pictures. We saw headlines in the news saying how glowing Meghan looked. We saw a royal couple telling everyone they wanted some privacy. But DL says that what we saw on TV was not the truth. According to her, Archie was already 2 weeks old when Harry and Meghan came out to show him to the world. 2 whole weeks. That means the famous moment when news reporters were told Meghan was in labor was just a trick. It was a story made up to hide the real timeline. DL claims she had already had the baby quietly in a place called Colorado. There were no royal photographers there. There was no chaotic scene at a hospital. It was just a private birth, followed by total silence. While this was happening, far away across the ocean in England, the palace was releasing vague statements. They said Meghan was having the baby. Then, just a few minutes later, they said Archie had already arrived. It didn't really make sense at the time. The timing was weird, but nobody asked too many questions because everyone thought Harry and Meghan just wanted to do things differently. But DL says this wasn't about privacy. It was a plan. It was a coordinated show. It was a way to present Meghan as a new mother without ever having to show a real moment at the hospital. What makes this even stranger is how Meghan looked in the days after. She looked perfectly rested. She didn't look like someone who had just had a baby. She was standing tall in high heels only 2 days after she supposedly gave birth. At the time, people said, wow, she handles pregnancy beautifully. But now, if we believe DL, the reason Meghan looked so perfect was simple. She hadn't been through the pain of labor at all. The introduction of Archie wasn't a celebration of a birth. It was a performance like in a movie. If DL is telling the truth, then hiding a pregnancy isn't just about faking photos or smiling for cameras. It is about paperwork. It is about official forms. And according to DL, the paperwork is where everything went dark. DL says her name is not on any medical file that normal people would see. Her name is not on the papers you get when you leave the hospital. It is not on the birth certificate. It is not on a single official paper connected to Archie. She claims she was told very clearly, no trace of you can remain, not even a signature. She says this was done to keep the royal story clean. They wanted to make sure Meghan looked like she did exactly what a royal mother is supposed to do. But even the official papers that we can see raise some big questions. Months after Archie was born, Meghan's name was suddenly taken off his birth certificate. It was just erased. At the time, Meghan's team said it was just a small office mistake or a change in style. But now, with what DL is saying, some people believe that change was done on purpose. They think it was a way to keep lawyers from noticing details that didn't match up. And there is even more. DL says the fertility clinic, the messenger, and even the records of the money were all designed to make her invisible. She says she wasn't just cut off from the family emotionally, she was cut out legally. It was as if her part in the story never happened. But behind the scenes, DL kept everything. She was smart. She kept the agreements she signed. She kept the emails. She kept the receipts from the clinic. She kept them because she thought her silence would be respected. She thought she would be paid fairly like they promised. She trusted the system she was entering. But when all of that was taken away from her, and when she realized she had been replaced by a fake story that pretended she didn't exist, she decided to stop hiding. And with that decision, the entire story around the royal births began to unravel like a loose thread on a sweater. At first, you might think this is just a fight between 2 people about a broken promise or money, but that is not what makes this story so explosive. What makes it dangerous is the royal law. If Meghan did not give birth to Archie and Lilibet herself, and if they didn't follow the strict rules for using a surrogate in the UK, then the children's status as royals gets very complicated. Very, very complicated. The rules for who gets to be a prince or princess are not just for fun. They are laws. It requires the family line to be clear, provable, and officially written down. A hidden surrogate breaks every single link in that chain. According to people who work inside the palace, the leaders there are quietly terrified. Here is why they are so scared. First, the children's titles could be taken away. If Meghan was not legally the mother under the old rules, their place in line for the throne changes. Second, the official documents might not match what really happened. This opens the door for people to say it was fraud, which means lying on legal papers. Third, the government might have to get involved. Members of Parliament have already asked why the births were never checked by an independent doctor. Fourth, papers in other countries could become invalid. For example, Lilibet's birth registration in the United States might be wrong if it lists the wrong information about her mother. This is no longer a simple question of did Meghan carry the babies. This is now a question of whether the king and queen were tricked. It is a question of whether the public was lied to. It is a question of whether the whole list of who becomes king next was built on a story instead of the truth. Behind the thick walls of the palace, advisors are working late into the night. Lawyers are looking at every single piece of the story Harry and Meghan told. They are looking for holes, because if DL shows her evidence to the world, it won't just be embarrassing for the royal family. It might mean they have to rewrite their history books. As this story gets louder and louder, Meghan Markle gets quieter and quieter. She's not just being quiet as a plan, she is missing. We don't see her at events. She is not giving speeches, there are no fancy photo shoots, there are no surprise podcasts, she is not making any appearances, not even a simple written statement has come out. People who used to work closely with her say that Meghan has gone into a kind of lockdown. She's hiding away. Friends in Hollywood whisper that movie producers who used to want her name on their movies are suddenly backing away. They are doing it politely, but they are firm. They don't want to be involved. It isn't that they hate her, it is that they are afraid. No one wants to stand next to a royal disaster that is about to explode. This silence is especially strange because Meghan has never been a woman who hides. She has always been someone who speaks her mind. She likes to tell her side of the story. But now this silence feels different. It feels less like she is in control and more like she is calculating. She is waiting. She is watching. She is studying how bad this storm will get before she decides what to do next. Sources who used to work on her media team put it simply. She is not staying silent because she's staying silent because she has to. If DL truly steps forward with the papers she claims to have, Meghan's next move might be the most important moment of her entire life in the public eye. While Meghan disappears into the shadows, Harry is crumbling. Friends say he barely looks like the happy, energetic prince the world once knew. He is anxious and nervous. He gets angry very easily. He is drifting away from Meghan and spending long hours all by himself. Sources say he is overwhelmed by guilt. He doesn't feel guilty for choosing a surrogate. That is not a crime. He feels guilty for the secrecy. He feels guilty for agreeing to a lie that now threatens to break apart everything he fought so hard to protect. According to someone close to their group of friends, Harry muttered a very sad confession. He said, "I just wanted to protect my family. I didn't think it would go this far." Those words echo through every part of this sad story. Harry once said he left the royal family to shield his loved ones. He wanted to create a safer, happier life. But somewhere along the way, that mission twisted into something else. It became a performance he could no longer keep up. Now, as DL prepares to speak, Harry faces the hardest truth of all. The story he helped build is falling down, and he is not strong enough to hold it up alone. While the palace freezes in fear and Harry and Meghan retreat, DL is getting ready to step into the bright light. Her team says she is ready. She is ready to speak. She is ready to show what she has. She is ready to reveal the truth she says was buried underneath secret contracts and royal rules. The documents she reportedly holds are very serious. They include signed agreements about keeping secrets. They include records of money transfers tied to Harry and Meghan's bank accounts. They include emails exchanged with members of Harry's team. They include records from the fertility clinic. They even include a hospital bill with her name on it where Meghan's name should have been. She has photos from inside the doctor's offices. She has travel logs showing where people went, and they match up with the dates of the births. If even a small part of this collection is real, it would be enough to start a giant legal storm in 2 different countries. Her team has hinted that she might do a TV interview. It would be a sit-down conversation with no editing, no filters, no people telling her what to say, just DL, her documents, and the truth as she lived it. For Meghan and Harry, this is not just a threat. It is a countdown clock ticking away. Because once DL speaks to the public, the story of Harry and Meghan will be changed forever. It won't be shaped by public relations experts. It won't be shaped by sympathy or magazine covers. It will be shaped by hard evidence, and evidence changes everything. Now the story reaches its final breath. This is the moment when silence becomes heavier than the truth. Across the ocean, Buckingham Palace is perfectly still. There are no denials, but there are no confirmations either. There is only the quiet tension of a very old institution bracing itself for an earthquake. Inside their home in Montecito, the house is reportedly tense and silent, too. Meghan is hiding from the storm she feels closing in on her. Harry is pacing through long, sleepless nights, whispering words no one ever expected to hear from a prince. And DL stands on the edge of history. She is holding papers that could redefine what it means to be born into royalty. If she steps forward, the public won't just learn a secret. They will watch an illusion fall apart. This story is no longer about gossip. It is no longer about rumors or guesses. It is about who people really are. It is about family lines and truth. These are the pillars that hold up the royal family itself. For years, the world watched Meghan and Harry build a story of modern love and new beginnings. We thought they were being honest with us, but now the curtain has been pulled back, and what stands behind it is not a fairy tale. It is a broken crack. A crack that is getting wider every single day. And if DL brings her evidence into the light, that crack may become the moment royal history turns a corner. It might be the moment when the world realizes that the most carefully told royal story of our time was built not on tradition, and not on truth, but on silence. The monarchy waits, the public waits, the world waits, and as the countdown continues, one truth rises above all others. When evidence enters the room, even the biggest illusions start to shake, and this one is about to shatter.